entitled Aunt Crashed My Engagement Party and announced her daughter's engagement. I never expected my own engagement party to turn into a battleground, but here we are. I'm still fuming and honestly heartbroken over what happened. It was supposed to be a joyous celebration for me and my fiancé Ethan, celebrating our engagement with our closest friends and family. Instead, my aunt decided that our special night was the perfect time to steal the spotlight for her daughter. The party was this past Saturday evening at my parents' house. They had gone all out catering, decorations, music, the works. I was so happy at first, mingling with people, showing off my ring, and just feeling the love. For a little background, I, 28F, have an Aunt Karen. Not her real name, but it fits. She's my mom's older sister. Let's just say she has a history of making everything about herself or her kids. Because of past drama, I actually did not invite Aunt Karen to our engagement party. She has a knack for pulling stunts and making every event about herself or her kids. For example, at my college graduation dinner a few years ago, she gave an impromptu speech that was supposed to be about me but somehow turned into bragging about Melissa. Another time, she threw a fit at my cousin's baby shower because she wasn't seated at the head table. So yeah, we knew she might cause trouble. My mom was on board with not having her there. She's caused scenes at events before. We kept the guest list to people we genuinely wanted to be there. Well, apparently Aunt Karen found out, likely through my grandmother or another relative who innocently mentioned it, and decided to show up anyway. About an hour into the party, I was chatting with some college friends when I saw the front door swing open and in walks Aunt Karen, flanked by my cousin Melissa, her daughter 25F, and Melissa's boyfriend Jake. The room kind of fell silent in that corner because everyone knew she wasn't invited. I caught one of my other cousins shooting me a wide-eyed look of sympathy, as if to say, "Good luck." Everyone knew Aunt Karen could be trouble. My mom hustled over, clearly nervous, and politely, but coldly said, "Karen, I didn't think you were coming." I could tell by Mom's tone that Aunt Karen was not welcome. Aunt Karen, loud enough for half the party to hear, goes, "Oh, I heard about the party and just had to come congratulate my niece. We're family. I brought Melissa and Jake too. Hope that's okay." Without waiting for an answer, she waltzes in, with Melissa looking a little sheepish and Jake avoiding eye contact. I forced a smile and went over there, mainly because I didn't want an awkward standoff in front of my fiancé's family. His parents and siblings were meeting my family for the first time that night, by the way. I said something polite like, "Oh, hi, well, welcome. Help yourselves to some food." Inside, I was raging that she just barged in, but I was trying so hard to keep things civil for the sake of the event. My mom was shooting me apologetic looks, and my dad had come over, probably debating whether to ask her to leave. But my grandma, Aunt Karen's and Mom's mother, was also there, and I saw Grandma go up and hug Aunt Karen, acting happy to see her. That complicated things. No one wants to have a big confrontation with Grandma right there. So we let them stay. In hindsight, that was a huge mistake. At first, aside from the initial awkwardness, things settled down. I tried to ignore them and focus on my friends and the normal guests. Maybe 20 to 30 minutes later, we were getting ready to do a little speech and toast. My dad got everyone's attention, clinking a glass, and he handed the floor to Ethan and me. We thanked everyone for coming, made a couple of cute jokes, and I was genuinely feeling back in the party spirit, thinking maybe we'd survive Aunt Karen's presence without drama. We opened the floor for others to say a few words if they wanted. A few of our friends shared nice memories, etc. Then, just as we were about to wrap up the speeches and let people get back to eating and drinking, Aunt Karen suddenly raises her hand and practically shouts, "Actually, I have something to say." I felt my stomach drop. I shot a quick, panicked look at my mom, who was standing across the room, and she looked as nervous as I felt. But what could we do? It would have made a scene to say, "No, you can't speak," in front of everyone. Before I can say anything, Aunt Karen is up front next to me and Ethan, smiling like the Cheshire Cat. "First, I want to congratulate Opie and Ethan," she says, putting a hand on my shoulder. I tense up. Such a lovely party for a beautiful couple. I exhale a bit. Maybe she's just going to give a normal toast and behave. Wishful thinking. She then says, "This actually reminds me of when my daughter got engaged," and she pulls Melissa by the hand to stand up with us. I remember Melissa's face was red as a tomato, and she was shaking her head slightly, as if telling her mom, "Don't do this." Oh, but she did it. Aunt Karen continues, turning to address the room. "I have wonderful news to share with you all. My Melissa just got engaged too." And with that, she reaches into her purse, pulls out a little box, and hands it to Jake. He looks confused. I later found out Aunt Karen had literally grabbed the ring from him earlier to hide it so she could do this whole reveal. Next thing I know, Aunt Karen is announcing her daughter's engagement right in the middle of my party. Jake, clearly caught off guard, takes the ring and, under Aunt Karen's expectant glare, sort of holds it up awkwardly. Melissa looked like she might faint. There was a beat of absolute silence. I think everyone was processing whether this was part of our party or something separate. Then one of my distant cousins, who clearly didn't realize what was happening, clapped and said, "Congratulations!" That opened the floodgates of confusion. A few people clapped uncertainly. My fiancé Ethan was like, "Wait, what?" under his breath. I was just frozen, staring at my aunt like, "Are you serious right now?" Aunt Karen beamed and went on blathering, "I know. What are the odds, right? 2 engagements in the family around the same time. Since everyone is here, I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to celebrate both." She turned to me with this faux innocent look. "I hope you don't mind, sweetie. I mean, we're all so happy for you, and I'm sure you're just as happy for Melissa. This is like a double celebration." I finally snapped out of my shock enough to respond. I said in a strained voice, This is supposed to be our engagement party." I tried to keep my tone polite-ish, but I could hear the anger creeping in. People around us went quiet again, sensing the tension between me and my aunt. Aunt Karen waved a dismissive hand, still smiling that infuriating smile. "Oh, of course, of course. It's still your party. I just thought since we had so much family gathered, why not let Melissa have a moment? It's not like it's taking anything away from you." Then she immediately calls out, "Everyone, raise a glass to both happy couples." Ethan stepped forward and gently took the microphone. Well, it was just my dad's portable karaoke mic we were using for speeches, from Aunt Karen's hand. He said, trying to keep his voice steady, "We are not here to celebrate anyone else tonight." He looked at Jake and Melissa and said, "No offense to you guys, congrats and all, but this is not the time or place for that announcement." I was grateful he said it, because I was in such a rage I couldn't even find the right words. Aunt Karen's smile faded and turned into a scowl. She snatched the mic back. It made a loud screech of feedback and said, "Well, I am just trying to include my daughter in the happiness. I thought you of all people would be happy for her, OP." She practically sneered at me. That's when I lost it. I said something along the lines of, "Are you serious? You're hijacking my engagement party for your own agenda. How could you think this is okay?" Aunt Karen rolled her eyes dramatically and said, "Stop being so dramatic. There's plenty of love to go around. It's not your night only. We're family, we share our celebrations." She actually had the nerve to pat my shoulder like I'm some child throwing a tantrum. By now, my mom had come up and was trying to intervene, saying, "Karen, this was not the time. We can celebrate Melissa another day. You need to stop this." But Aunt Karen was not having it. She turned on my mom, her own sister, saying, "Oh, here we go. You're always favoring OP. If this were about her," pointing at me, "you'd be all for it. But my Melissa can't have 5 minutes of attention? Such hypocrisy." The crowd was half in shock, half pretending to look at their drinks or phones. Poor Melissa looked like she wanted to disappear. She quietly said, "Mom, please, let's just go." But Aunt Karen ignored her completely. I shouted back, "This is insane! You're making a fool of yourself and ruining our night." At that, Aunt Karen gasps and goes, "Ruining? I'm enhancing it. Now this gathering is about 2 happy couples." She claps her hands like it's settled. "Come on, everyone. Let's congratulate Melissa and Jake." My dad finally had enough and stepped in with his big dad voice. "All right, that's enough." He looked at Jake, who was by now red-faced, and said, "Jake, I think you should take Melissa home." Then he looked at Aunt Karen and added, "You too. You should leave." That set Aunt Karen off like a rocket. She started screeching about how my dad was treating her like garbage, how we were all ganging up on her. She said something like, "Fine, we're leaving, but don't expect me to come to the wedding after this disrespect," which, irony, we were already not wanting her there anyway. She grabbed Melissa by the arm, who in turn grabbed Jake and started marching towards the door. But of course, she couldn't go without one final parting shot. She turned and yelled in front of everyone, "You all should be ashamed. This was supposed to be about family. My daughter deserves to be celebrated too. OP, you're just a selfish brat who can't share the spotlight." She then screeched, "None of you even threw Melissa a party when she got engaged." What was I supposed to do? Stay quiet? I was shaking with anger and, yes, on the verge of tears. But I managed to shout back, "Don't let the door hit you on the way out." Not the most clever retort, but it was all I had in the moment. Some of the crowd laughed or oohed at that. Aunt Karen stormed out, dragging poor Melissa behind her. Jake actually broke free of Aunt Karen's grip to quickly say "I'm sorry" in our direction before following them out. I even saw Melissa wiping away tears of embarrassment. As she was being dragged out, she looked at me and mouthed, "I'm sorry," before hiding her face. In the silence that followed, I felt every emotion at once: anger, embarrassment, sadness. I was mortified that this happened in front of Ethan's family and all our friends. I looked at Ethan with tears in my eyes and just blurted, "I'm so sorry." He shook his head and hugged me, while everyone kind of stood around awkwardly. We ended the party early. The mood was ruined. My mom came over then and pulled me into a hug, tears in her own eyes, saying, "I am so sorry, honey. I never thought she'd go this far." She kept apologizing for her sister, and my dad was fuming, muttering that he would never let Karen near any of our events again. I just shook my head, trying to hold it together. We cut the cake super early just to do it and get it over with, and people filtered out soon after. We didn't even get to hand out the cute engagement party favors we prepared. Most of them sat abandoned on the table as guests quietly slipped out. What was supposed to be a fun night ended with me in tears in the kitchen, makeup ruined, angrily stress eating a slice of cake while ranting to my best friend about how I should have kicked Aunt Karen out the minute she showed up. My best friend and maid of honor stayed behind to help me clean up. She was livid on my behalf, pacing the kitchen and ranting, "I can't believe the nerve of that woman. I would have kicked her out the second she walked in." It was cathartic hearing someone else say what I was thinking. We vented together as we picked up plates and cups, cursing my aunt in every way we could think of. Honestly, it helped a little to have someone share in my anger and validate how messed up that was. So yeah, that was my engagement party. What should have been one of the happiest nights of my life turned into a total nightmare thanks to one entitled aunt who couldn't stand not being the center of attention. There's a lot of fallout happening now in my family, which I'll likely post in an update once I gather my thoughts. For now, I'm just trying to calm down and not let this incident cast a shadow over the fact that I'm engaged to the love of my life. But it's hard. I'm furious, and I don't know how to deal with Aunt Karen moving forward. All I know is she's not invited to the wedding, that's for sure, though knowing her, I'm genuinely worried she might try to crash that too. There's no neat resolution right now. I'm just exhausted and upset. I'll update later if I can. Update 1. Hi everyone. I didn't expect to write an update so soon, but the fallout from the engagement party fiasco has been even more chaotic than I anticipated. It's been a few days, and my family drama meter is off the charts. Buckle up. First off, thank you for all the supportive comments and messages. It helped to hear that I wasn't overreacting. I certainly don't feel crazy anymore. Well, except for the fact that this is my real life. So, the morning after the party, I woke up to about 24 text messages and missed calls. Most were from family. Apparently, Aunt Karen wasted no time trying to play the victim and spin the story. She even took to Facebook, complaining that she was kicked out for sharing happy news, completely twisting the story. Luckily, many people who were at the party set the record straight in the comments, and she deleted the post after it backfired on her. But the drama didn't stop there. My phone was blowing up all day. I got calls from my mom, my grandma, my uncle, who lives out of state but heard about it, even Melissa. Let's break it down. Grandma's take. Grandma was mortified and furious. She gave Aunt Karen an earful. "How dare you ruin your niece's party?" Aunt Karen yelled back that no one celebrated Melissa, but Grandma wasn't having it and said Karen owed me a big apology. Of course, Aunt Karen refused. Mom and Dad. My parents have been 100% on my side. They have been from the start. My mom has been texting/calling to check on me constantly, and she is beyond angry at her sister. She told me Aunt Karen is banned from our house and that if she tries to contact me directly, I should ignore it. My dad is livid, too. I've never heard him use some of the words he muttered about her. They both said they regret not kicking her out the minute she walked in. Hindsight, right? Melissa. I spoke with Melissa the day after. She actually apologized to me, even though none of it was her fault. She was so embarrassed and said she had no idea her mom was going to do that. Apparently, Aunt Karen found out Jake had proposed a week prior and immediately started plotting this surprise. Melissa begged her not to do anything at my party, but as we all saw, that didn't matter. She also told me she and her mom had a huge fight afterward. Melissa even said, if I ever do have an engagement party of my own, I don't even want my mom there at this point. That's how upset she is. I told her none of my anger was toward her or Jake. We're good, thankfully. Now, about the wedding invitations, or uninvitations. A lot of you predicted it. We absolutely, unequivocally do not want Aunt Karen at the wedding. I mean, we didn't plan to invite her even before this, but now it's 110% certain. My mom has already spread the word to that side of the family that Aunt Karen is not welcome at any future wedding events, showers, the wedding itself, etc. Most of my relatives responded with some version of well duh, given what happened. However, you won't be surprised that Aunt Karen did not take kindly to being barred. When Aunt Karen learned she'd been uninvited from my wedding, she went ballistic. She called my mom, with me listening, to rant that I'm petty and vindictive and that it's unforgivable to exclude family. She even had the audacity to suggest I have a joint wedding with Melissa so no one feels left out. Absolutely not happening. We shut that down immediately, making it clear she's not welcome at the wedding. She then basically said I'd regret it and tried to guilt us, at which point I hung up. So yeah, she's effectively uninvited/banned. We've also alerted the venue and wedding planner about potential drama, just in case. Thankfully, our wedding isn't super soon. It's in a few months, which gives us time to brace ourselves. I'm honestly half expecting her to try something else, but at least now everyone in the family is aware of what happened and why she's not invited. Some family members, mostly older ones, are urging me to make peace or saying things like, but FAAA Emily. I'm standing firm. So are my parents and, of course, my fiancé. There's no way I'm letting her ruin anything else. Melissa, by the way, is still apologetic and even told me she supports whatever I need to do to feel safe/happy on my wedding day, even if that means her mom isn't there. I really appreciated that. At this point, I want to focus on moving forward. The engagement party was a disaster, but I'm trying not to let my aunt's tantrum overshadow the fact that I'm engaged to someone I love, and we have so much to look forward to. That said, I'm definitely keeping an eye out for any more antics from Aunt Karen. Knowing her, this storm might not be over. I'll update again if she does anything else. Or if there's some major development, hopefully not another blow-up. For now, I'm just relieved that most of the family is on my side, and that we're united in keeping her antics at bay. Update 2. Well, it's been a little while, and things have only gotten crazier, of course. We're now just a couple of weeks out from the wedding, and I wish I could say Aunt Karen has given up. Nope. Instead, she seems to be doubling down on the crazy. Buckle up for what will hopefully be the final pre-wedding saga. After the last update, we made it very clear to everyone that Aunt Karen was not invited to the wedding and would be turned away if she showed up. Most sane people would take that as, okay, I should back off. But my dear aunt? She apparently took it as a challenge. First, we got wind through the family grapevines that Aunt Karen was trying to organize her own event on the same day as our wedding. Yes, you read that right. She has been telling some relatives that since we won't let her celebrate at our wedding, she's going to throw a party for Melissa and Jake on that day instead, essentially forcing people to choose where to go. I was incredulous when I heard this. Who in their right mind would think that's a good idea? From what I can tell, nobody is actually on board with her scheme. Most of my family basically told her, no, we're going to OP's wedding. Stop this nonsense. So as far as I know, that attempt to hijack the date isn't going anywhere. But the sheer fact that she tried has had me fuming, and frankly laughing at the absurdity. Unfortunately, that's not the worst she attempted. Remember how we alerted our venue and vendors about potential interference? That paid off. Last week, our wedding venue coordinator called my fiancé and me to double-check something odd. Someone had contacted them, pretending to be us, claiming we needed to make drastic changes to our reservation, specifically to change the date to the following week. The venue staff were immediately suspicious because we had just confirmed all our details a day prior, and the caller's voice didn't sound like me or anyone on the contract. When the venue pressed for a name, the person hung up. We have little doubt who was behind that. I was livid, but also grateful the venue had our backs. So yeah, it appears Aunt Karen tried, and failed, to sabotage our wedding logistics. I can barely believe I'm typing that, but after everything, I guess it tracks. We've since added secret passwords with all our vendors and even hired security for the wedding day. Not taking any chances. For those wondering about Melissa, she is horrified by her mom's behavior. We talk often, and she's been keeping her distance from Aunt Karen as well. Melissa is barely speaking to her mom at this point, which Karen of course blames on me, as if I somehow turned her against her. No, Karen did that all by herself. At this point, most of the family has gone low contact or no contact with Aunt Karen until after my wedding, just to avoid her drama. My mom and grandma told her in no uncertain terms to stay away on the wedding day. Apparently, Karen keeps insisting she just wants to talk to me in person and make things right. Yeah, no. I know better than to be alone with her. Making things right, in her mind, probably means me somehow conceding to her demands. Not happening. I've been a ball of stress leading up to the wedding, not as much about the marriage itself, but about what stunt my aunt might pull next. We have security and a whole plan. The venue has a photo of her and instructions to refuse entry. If she somehow sneaks in, my bridesmaids and groomsmen all know to immediately flag it. Even some of my relatives have volunteered to be on Karen watch during the day. It's comforting to know so many people have my back, but also ridiculous that it's necessary. As of now, Aunt Karen is still on her crusade of painting me as the villain. She's been relatively quiet publicly, probably because she burned a lot of bridges with that Facebook rant and subsequent antics. But I know she's stewing. She even sent a mass email to relatives about how she can't condone excluding family and that she'll remember this treatment. Most relatives ignored her. So the stage is set. I'm 2 weeks from marrying the love of my life, surrounded by supportive family and friends, except one notable absence. To be honest, I prefer that absence. I'd rather have an empty chair than her chaos.